The James Show Podcast.
My next guest is the worst guest I've had all year. Brian Harrison's back on. He's a state rep out of Midlothian, and he's fine, but he always has bad news coming from the Texas legislative session. And I think you're going to continue your streak here. I was just perusing your Twitter feed last night, and I said, we got to have him back on. This is just too bad. So where do you want to start first?
I will move past my hurt feelings when you call me the worst guest in the history of your show. I will move that aside in the interest of telling Texans the truth about what's going on in their government. Because you may not love talking to me, James. I love talking with you. So here's the reality. I just stepped off the floor real quick. Happy to do an update. Texans need to know what's going on, and it's all bad. I mean, we saved, in a rare moment, for a few minutes, conservatives won yesterday. We defeated, and it's embarrassing we have to talk about this. Joe Biden tried to do this student loan forgiveness scam. Well, guess what the Texas House leadership put on the floor yesterday? The exact same thing, but a Texas version of it. We defeated it. But no, the liberal leadership wasn't going to let that stand. So they had to save Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program for Texas. So they made a bunch of their rhinos in leadership pretend their machines malfunctioned, made them literally go up to the front and say, my machine voted me wrong. It said I voted against this, but I really wanted to vote for it. And so we expanded student loan forgiveness programs in Texas. So we did that yesterday. Look, this is the most anti-taxpayer session in the history of Texas. We have grown government, we've increased spending, and we've done things that decrease liberty, that decrease freedom for adults, and we're doubling down on the progressive left's agenda, DEI, LGBTQ ideology. And, one of the biggest things that we are now at a point where I can say this for sure, and if you're a Texan driving to and from work, you're at work, this is probably going to be the thing that makes you the most angry. It's not the bad things we did, and we did a lot of bad things, but it's the things we didn't do, and number one, chief among them, is we did not do anything to sufficiently address the crushing burden of property taxes, and we were not even allowed to have a debate. Forget passing a bill. We weren't even allowed to have a discussion about putting our state on a path to eliminate property taxes, and I think that's the ultimate betrayal, and I'm never going to let the people responsible forget that.
All right, well, I know you're not a mind reader, but what are they saying in the hallways of the state capitol, Brian Harrison, you're a state rep, about whether or not the governor is going to sign the THC bill, which passed, the ban on THC, which I heard is now sitting on his desk?
Yeah, I don't know. And look, I was one of the very few Republicans that had the courage to vote no. When we say as Republicans that we believe in small government, we believe in limited government, we believe in the principles of liberty, I think we need to be consistent in that. And look, I appreciate the intent of this. What it was, for folks who don't know, SB 3 was a ban on all hemp products. And the goal was to protect kids. At least the authors, the goal is to protect kids from dangerous products. And look, I share that goal. But a total ban was too far. It grew government too much. It restricted the freedom of adults who either want these products or some who rely on these products. And I think we're going to have harmful unintended consequences like shuttering thousands of small businesses. I think 50,000 jobs may go away. And I think it might have the result of pushing adults into very dangerous black markets or to much harder and more addictive, deadly pharmaceuticals. This was government overreach. I voted no. I believe it should be vetoed, but I do not know. I do not know what the governor is going to do. But I did tweet out the other day that if I were the governor of the state of Texas, my staff would be having to buy veto pins at Costco, and they might have to go to more than one Costco to get the number of veto pins that I would need after this train wreck of a session.
Well, you know who does like the THC ban? Probably the cartels. I would guess they're like, good, we can get that business back. Instead of it being in the 8,000 shops in Texas, we can get it back off the streets.
Well, you're right. And you're right. And look, Texans deserve the truth. This SB 3, it was a win for the cartels. I tell you who else it was a win for. It was a win for the alcohol industry. It was a win for the tobacco industry. It was a win for the pharmaceutical industry. It might well be a win for the prison industry. I mean, these are not the industries that we should be passing policies to enrich. And, sort of one of my very low-hanging fruit, just my test for is a bill good or bad, I got to vote on 3,000 things. Do the drug cartels like it or do they not like it? And if the drug cartels don't like it, I probably don't love it. And if the drug cartels do like it, I probably don't. And it's just sad. I'm kind of making a little tongue-in-cheek humor here, but this is deadly serious. I do fear the very, very real adverse consequences from government overreach. But it's just in a long line of government overreaches. I mean, we voted to give about $2 billion, not to lower property taxes, but to liberal Hollywood. We're literally importing California into Texas and taxing Texans out of their homes to do it.
I'm going to set you up with another bill that looks absolutely horrible. Could this pass a ban on minors using social media in Texas?
Yeah, so again, I was one of the very, very few Republicans who had the courage to stand up to the pressure to vote for this ban. And the people who pushed this, they call it a bill to empower parents, but it does the opposite of that. And I've got real concerns about making every adult be forced to hand over very sensitive private information to big tech companies. I mean, why would we want big tech to have more information than it's got to have? But you know what? You can pass just about anything, as it turns out, if you say it's to protect the kids. I mean, there's almost no socialist or big government policy you can't pass if you tell enough people it's just about protecting the kids, right? Well, sometimes, no. We get elected to do the hard things and to think critically and say, is this the role of government? Most of the time, the answer is no. Does this advance freedom and liberty? Most of the times, the answer is no.
Right.
And are we doing something that's going to do more harm than good? Most of the time, the answer to that is yes. And so, yeah, we did do something that makes it to where parents have to have their accounts linked to their kids, and the parents are probably going to have to give a lot of data to the big tech companies, and I've got very real concerns about it.
Well, I don't know if these people have kids, but when you give them cell phones, there's parental controls where you can be very restrictive on what does and doesn't happen on the phone. And if you can't figure it out, then don't give your kid a cell phone. But I can figure it out, so don't screw it up for me.
Well, amen. And I've got 4 kids. My wife and I are really blessed. We have 4 children between the ages of 5 and 10, and I care deeply about what they have, and that's why we heavily restrict what they can do online. But here's the thing that people forget in Austin and in Washington: government is not your parent. And just because something is good, that doesn't mean government should subsidize it. And just because something's bad, that doesn't necessarily mean government should ban it. But politicians, they have to justify their existence, and so they've got to do something, and it's usually something cooked up by the liberal special interests. We're going to make some liberal special interests rich. We're going to tax millions of Texans to do it. And every time government grows, liberty and freedom shrink. Texas should be the number 1 state in America for liberty and freedom, and we have that reputation, but for far too long, we've just been coasting on it. It's past damn time we start living up to it.
We're talking with Representative Brian Harrison. He's state rep from the Midlothian area. I have some breaking news here. Fox News is now reporting on the jet ski homicide that happened over the weekend here in North Texas because it was illegal immigrants from Venezuela, and then they had a quote from the governor and Ken Paxton on there. So look, it's made the national news. I don't want to say it's good news, but back to the legislative session here, Brian. Did you say we're going to increase spending on DEI? I thought we were getting rid of DEI.
No, I wish we were getting rid of DEI. Texas should be leading the nation in getting rid, and we should be leading the fight against this Marxist DEI discriminatory policies that, especially if we're forcing taxpayers to fund it. But instead of getting rid of DEI, the state of Texas, the Texas government is doubling down on DEI. We are, in fact, increasing the budgets of state agencies and universities that are engaged in DEI. And get this, just 2 nights ago, a so-called Republican, at least it got Republican by his name, he offered an amendment to a public education, I'm talking elementary schools, junior highs, high schools, public K-12. He put an amendment on a bill that most of my so-called Republicans voted for that put DEI hiring practices in all of our public K through 12 schools in the state of Texas. I filed multiple bills, multiple budget amendments to defund DEI in the state of Texas. Every single bill to end taxpayer-funded DEI in the state of Texas was killed by the corrupt, failed leadership in the Austin swamp. And in fact, I'm on the Appropriations Committee. I forced one of our agencies, just one of them, the Texas Department of Transportation. These are the folks that are supposed to build roads and bridges. You might ask yourself, what DEI? They can't be doing any DEI. They have an entire civil rights office at our Texas Department of Transportation, and their budget request to demand their funding, they told me that the only thing that these 50 people do is to engage in DEI. And when I forced them to tell me how much money had they spent on contracts that they awarded based at least in part in DEI, prepare yourself, over $1 billion with a B, $1 billion from just one state agency to let government contracts that were based at least in part on DEI. And so as a result of that, prepare yourself. I'm going to say this one sentence. I'm going to say it slowly. It's going to shock people.
Okay.
The government of Texas, the Texas government, might actually be the biggest funder of DEI in all of America.
Yeah, we had done a deep dive into the hub system, the historically underprivileged businesses, and it turns out that the state of Texas would rather give the contract to a Chinese national worth $5 billion because it's a she over just a regular middle-class contractor here in Texas just because he has the crime of being a white male. And
almost certainly overpaying for the contract. So they're discriminating against native Texans and overpaying to award contracts based on race, gender, and ethnicity. So taxpayers are getting, I can't even say the word on the air the Texas government is doing to taxpayers, but that's what's happening down here. And taxpayers should be put first. We work for the taxpayers. The taxpayers are our boss. But Austin, the uniparty controls Austin, and they have forgotten that. And the only thing that they believe taxpayers are good for is funding their leftist agenda and enriching their liberal friends. And we've got to put an end to that. So no, not only do we not cut government, we grew government. And in fact, the last two budgets, if you add it up, we've grown government between 35 and 42%. Just in the last two budgets.
All right, Brian, you got the studio audience all mad now. And we artfully call this getting P-Diddy'd with no baby oil. That's what this session is. All right, thank you very much. You don't have to co-sign that.
But no, we're gonna save Texas. God bless you. God bless Texas.
Thank you. It's State Rep Brian Harrison on the James Show. We have put together the rhino list. This is the one step that we have already gotten the arrow in our quiver to battle this, because we got to get these rhinos out. There's nothing we can do about it this section, but we got them all on the radar, and we're going to primary these losers out in the next election cycle. If you want the list of the 36 Republicans that have been voting with Democrats this whole time on all these measures that you disagree with, that don't support your principles, that aren't what the voters sent them to Austin to do, I have the list. Send me an email, james@wbap.com. You can send me a Facebook message, Instagram message, a direct message on Twitter/X or whatever we're calling it these days. And I will get you the list. It has a map so you can see if you live in one of the highlighted districts. There's a number on it, and you can follow it over to the list, and that'll give you the name of the guy that you got to get out of office. And some of you are going to have to run. Just letting you know right now, some of you are going to have to step up, put your business aside, spend a little bit of time away from your family, and fix it your damn self, because this is not going to work. My next story, it's just warms my heart. NPR is now suing to keep more of your tax money. We're not supposed to actually cut NPR. Oh, man, this makes me so happy. I hope they lose, and I hope they get shut down, and I hope they stay shut down forever. It's literally government propaganda. It's literally government employees on a government station operating on a government license, on government property, on government equipment, on government land and government buildings. It's government propaganda. They always come down on the side on every issue. What gives the people in power more money and more power? Every issue. You can't come up with one where they stray from the orthodoxy of big government. And they've been playing this little game where the complaint comes, we need to cut funding for NPR. And NPR says, well, that's just like 1% of our funding. Well, cool. Then you won't mind if we cut it then. Well, it's a little shell game they play because, yes, indirect money that goes from your taxpayer dollars to NPR, it's not much of their budget. However, there's also money that goes from you to all these NPR affiliates spread out across the station. and they pay NPR for a license. So if you count what goes through third-party intermediaries, then yes, the crux of their budget, they probably cannot survive without that money. They definitely can't survive as they exist right now. And when I say I hate NPR, that's to my own detriment. These NPR stations that have millions of taxpayer dollars being funneled into their coffers, they make jobs for people like me. NPR goes down, I have thousands of fewer job openings for whenever I get canned or fired or laid off or whatever from every job that happens to radio people. My opportunities go down. So I am saying this in defiance of my own interest, just because philosophically speaking, it's the right thing to do. Shut them down. And I love this. Well, I thought it was just a tiny part of your budget. What do you mean you can't survive without it? Oh, well, then I guess we really are just propping you up, the taxpayers. But NPR has been such a consistent voice against me, against people who look like me, against people who share my gender, against people who share my political philosophy, against people who share my values, my culture, just constantly beating you up. And so that's the double whammy. I understand why Democrats like NPR. They're taking money from Republicans and amplifying Democrat voices with it. They're taking money from, and look, they're taking it from Democrats too, make no mistake. Oh, yeah. But they're also taking it from their political opposition and using it against them politically. And it's so bad whenever they do the rundowns. One of the great institutions here, the Media Research Center, they run newsbusters.org. I love that place. They'll do the rundown on, hey, so far we're 5 months into 2025. How many conservative versus liberal guests has PBS had on? Well, according to newsbusters.org, the PBS NewsHour has had 173 liberal-leaning guests, only 41 conservative-leaning guests. Oh, that's like a more than 4-to-1 ratio. So sure, they'll throw in a token every once in a while, but it's money that's taken from you and used against you. And even, I would like to stress, even if it was on your side, I would be against it. It's wrong to take money and have a subsidized outlet, whether it agrees with them or not. That is not, when you go through what are the jobs of government, what did the Constitution, what did the founding fathers think that the people in D.C. were supposed to do, the people in the centralized, controlled capital of all the states? Didn't say anything about running a TV network or a radio network or a newspaper or a Pravda. It didn't say anything about that. In fact, it's pretty specific. There's only like 23 things that it's really supposed to do, and propaganda's not one of them. But hey, other side, Team Blue listeners, for the 20% of y'all who think you're Team Blue out there, doesn't it concern you a little bit that maybe you're not the resistance, you're not the rebel you think you are, you're not the free-thinking person who's impervious to propaganda, when we actually have government propaganda outlets, NPR and PBS, and you agree with them? You agree with all the major corporations and all the major tech companies, except for Elon Musk. It's the NFL that's putting in racism in the end zone. It takes all of us, not buy guns, buy ammo. So if all the big institutions that have, interlocking interests with government, if they all agree with you, wouldn't that make you a stooge of big government? How obvious does it have to be that you're an easily brainwashed automaton? Wake up. Oh, that's right. You call yourself woke. Even funnier. Do we need NPR? Hell no.